So Aegis, he hasn't played in the Midwest Cup yet. This is his first appearance, but he is a Grandmaster Terran from the team Miraculous Gaming. He is from Nebraska. If you want to follow him on Twitter, if you like his games, you can follow him at Aegis SC2. And some of his recent accomplishments have been that he played in MedCon 2014, which is an offline tournament for the Midwest Electronic Gaming Group, and he managed to pull out first place there, which is a pretty big win. And I know actually Hypernia played at that tournament as well. And I remember I was talking to him before Midwest Cup #1 started, and he was like, "Oh, did Aegis sign up?" Because like Hypernia kind of wanted like a little bit of revenge on him, because I think Aegis bunker rushed him twice.
Oh, sure.
Or something like that. Aegis had a lot of bunker rushes in MedCon.
And you know what? And in a tournament like that, where you're playing so much over that period of time, and you're playing a lot of players of varied skill levels, I wonder if that's just how he opened. He was like, anybody that's not a Grandmaster, I'm just going to bunker rush the first game and see if it works.
Yeah, definitely.
Just to get through games, just feeling confident about it. So we'll see if he bunker rushes this time, right?
Yeah, but yeah, I know Hypernia was like, man, I want to kick Aegis's ass. He straight up said that. So we'll see if he's able to get the revenge that he so desperately wants in this best of 3 between Hypernia and Aegis. Loading. There we go.
The gods of the internet favoring Aegis today. He has pleased them. He's looked at the pictures of cats that he was supposed to put in his time there. Hypernia skipped a few.
Yep. And Hypernia choosing not to do the auto worker thingamajigger, whatever that's called. Auto mine.
If Huck doesn't do it, why should I? Right?
Definitely. So I will introduce our Grandmaster Blue Terran. Down in the bottom corner of King Sejong Station, we have Aegis.
And spawning at the top left, a man who needs no O key, our green Protoss, Hypernia.
Yes, Hypernia, the well, you'll know him when you see him type, at least.
He should keep an O on his clipboard at all times. Of course, it would get tricky if you ever needed a capital O.
Yeah. No,
you'd have to go find a new O.
When we went to Ignite in Chicago to play in the tournament, the qualifier for getting a paid trip to Red Bull Detroit, he had to like sign into his account, and he was like, my password has an O in it. And I was like, oh. So he had to like pull over a different keyboard just to enter the password to get into his account. So that was pretty entertaining. So we've got opening up on this game. I'm not going to be super knowledgeable because I'm terrible at both of these races. But to me it looks pretty standard from both players. Aegis, I guess that's just a quick scout. He's getting a Reaper out, very likely from that barracks. So
yeah, and what we see here is we get the little earlier scout for the Terran player.
Yeah.
And I've always thought, and maybe somebody will, one day they'll explain it to me, but I've always thought it interesting to have an SCV scout followed by a Reaper scout, but you can already see here he's got a second SCV headed out, so he's planning some shenanigans. Likely based on what's in meta and what he did to me, I wouldn't be surprised if he drops a factory.
Yeah.
And tries to lift it into the shadows of the main.
Yeah, in fact, it's definitely certain that's what's going to happen right now.
Yep.
I think Hypernia, he's seen this before, though, to be honest, from Aegis, or at least
as all Protosses on the ladder have. It's definitely a risky, cheesy sort of play out of the Terran player.
Yeah.
But there's no way to... I mean, you can avoid taking a lot of damage to it, but there's no way to just kill it, essentially, as the Protoss.
Yeah, and he is scouting around a bit extra for some proxies with this probe. He's probably not going to be able to see that factory, unfortunately, for him at the very least. We'll see if he can handle it, though.
It's a really difficult location to scout, but what he did verify was that there's no close by ground factory out there that he'd just walk a mine in from.
Yeah. Yeah, and he will... Oh, the Mothership Core.
Oh, the Mothership Core,
I
indeed.
see it.
Hypernia. He's like, no way. I've had mines built in my base before. Not today. I would love the pro block. But we don't get it today.
I think I've seen that a couple of times.
I've seen some heroic pro blocking on the land.
I think.
Oh.
I thought he was gonna try for it. I was getting a forged on. I guess that makes more sense than a robo. Robo takes longer, right?
Right. The robo takes a long time. It's a little bit more useful, but I mean he'll still be able to get early upgrades started.
Yeah, if you could go for like a strong, maybe even Blink Stalker to follow this up or something with like a +1. I don't know.
Yeah, or if nothing else, he's just gonna try to expand first.
Yeah. Well, he's already got that expansion down, so he's probably feeling pretty comfortable. He danced his probes around by the factory for a little bit, just trying to show Aegis.
Right. And now he wants to. Oh, will he lose a stalker or a probe? And he loses a stalker.
Ooh, that's
really unfortunate. Yeah. And the tricky part here is if Aegis is able to dance this mine past this stalker, and it takes like I want to say it's 6 or 7 shots from a stalker.
Yeah, he's got
to
the
kill a
Mothership
mine.
Core too,
He might be able to position it outside of the range of the cannon, and outside of the vision of the cannon.
But
it looks like he's just leaving it.
I really like Hypernia's. Ooh, that Mothership Core takes a kind of a rough shot from the Widow Mine. I really like Hypernia's building wall that he's got here to prevent Reapers, as well as even if that mine tried to get around into the mineral line of to get some probe kills. Like it would take forever to get around there, and it would definitely get picked off before it was successful in its mission.
Really annoying mine placement right there, going right next to the robo.
Yeah.
Which can be really unfortunate, but also right by the ramp, denying any probe transfer, or at least making it a scary sort of situation.
Yeah, but I think, it kind of slows Hypernia down a little bit, but really at the end of the day, Hypernia, he hasn't seen what Aegis is really up to, but
right.
He doesn't know it, but he's pretty well ahead economically. He might be able to assume it. Aegis is going for another pretty big, not big, but pretty kind of scary attack. Those 4 Marauders are going to have Stimpack finished up, and they're going to have a Medevac behind it, which I guess really at this point in the game, Protoss doesn't have a whole lot to deal with that. The Mothership Core can plink away,
and the Stalker's going to go down so quickly to these Marauders, and they don't really do any damage to them, so really what he needs is a sentry to block them from going up the ramp. But there's the Medevac there, so he can just elevator them.
Yeah.
The Photon Overcharge going to go down. It's going to deflect them at least for a moment, but he's really got to get an Immortal count out.
Yeah, I think he's got enough for another Photon Overcharge though, right? And so, even at the main base, I think he'll...
Oh, but if he loses the Robo...
the Immortal comes out, but if he... Yeah...
He's going to try to save the Robo?
It doesn't quite make it, but I think it's still... Aegis is coming down with his expansion now, though, so he's not falling terribly behind. Hypernia's lost 4 workers. Not a ridiculous amount yet, especially because he was up a base for a pretty good amount of time. So,
right.
It looks like the drop play will continue. Aegis is going to try and get just as much out of that as he really can. If he can retain those units while still keeping Hypernia occupied, it keeps Hypernia in a little bit of an uncomfortable spot.
Right. And so he's just continuing to rally Marauders across the map.
Yeah.
And with the Medevac support, it's really scary because without getting Immortal shots or Zealot hits on these guys, they're really not going to take a lot of damage. So the big thing here is that a Photon Overcharge will give him a little more time if he stays in position. But if he loses that Immortal...
Oh, that's rough.
So really right now he needs to do damage to the Medevac health, so he doesn't have the option to safely float into the main. But this is starting to look really scary for Hypernia, despite his economic advantage.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know if maybe I question the blink play, and I wonder if What if you just like got a Void Ray here, right? I mean, maybe it's a little silly, and maybe my Zerg mind just can't understand the complexities of Terran versus Protoss, but it's an. This is Aegis doing some weird plays, though. To be honest, I wouldn't really expect this sort of thing to be all too terribly viable, but.
Right, another Robo coming down here. So, really, the big thing is Void Rays are just so bad that.
I mean,
just in PvT. So they're not bad, but if he's able to get a couple of Vikings out,
yeah, then they're pretty useless.
Right.
True.
And of course that means that he's not building Medivacs. Shoot,
Yep.
shoot.
Yeah, a little bit difficult targeting with those Blink Stalkers. He just barely didn't kill off one of the Medivacs.
2 of the Medivacs, you might even say.
Yeah,
3
kind
of
of
them
that
being
one.
at fairly low health. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just a few volleys away. And,
Another command center going down for Aegis, right at the front of his natural.
Yep. And I think
Would love to see him use to target down some of those low Medivacs though, because that's really what's allowing Aegis to stay out on the map so long.
Yeah, for sure. I think Hypernia's been okay. He's got a Warp Prism coming down into Aegis's base, so he'll probably be able to warp in some Zealots, maybe even a couple Dark Templars down there, because he does have the Dark Shrine available to him. However, getting this fight up near his natural is just so difficult to try and.
Right.
I feel like Hypernia is being pushed into the point where he has to try and he feels like he needs to try and like push it back, when I think maybe if he just tries to just like solely defend and not overextend, you know? I don't know.
Yeah.
So 2 DT, 3 DT.
3
drop.
DTs going into the main.
And he's gonna spread. He should be spreading those out between the main and the natural to try and take as many.
One
scans
missile
as
turret at the
possible.
natural.
Yep.
Loses 1 DT, keeps the other 2 in the main. Yeah, as long as he keeps those spread out enough where he's only getting a DT per scan, he's in not a bad situation. But
Yeah, and he forces the army of Aegis to come back home, and he can actually hide that final DT. The scan's gonna end, and now he's got a DT in the base of Aegis that I don't think there's energy to scan again. Nope. It's still 10 more energy on that orbital command to get another scan down. So, going to maybe try and target down the +1 armor, although the Zealot weapon not going to be terribly successful. However,
still really low Marine count though, so it's kind of funny
Yeah.
with that big of an army to just be flying a Warp Prism above it.
Yeah.
But pulling this army back, very important for allowing Hypernia to get his tech up, to get that 3rd base,
Yep.
to catch up with the 3rd base of Aegis.
Yeah, definitely.
Warp Prism does go down, kind of a sad exchange there.
Yeah, but
Probably would have had a Viking come out for it, but it would have been better to keep that threat there. It makes Aegis a little less comfortable moving out.
So I think a little bit of a, maybe just a slight misplay by Hypernia, or maybe one of those gotchas of, I think he was chrono boosting his robotics bay, but he hadn't quite started extended thermal lance quite yet.
Oh,
And
sure.
I thought he had finished it, but he actually just hadn't quite started. But it's not, it's not the end of the world. There's not, well, there might be an impending attack from Aegis. So we'll see if that really makes a big difference in this fight that looks like it's going to be incoming.
Right, the bigger deal here is that in the open ground, without being able to defend one base here, Hypernia is in a really scary situation before all those zealots are useful when they
Yeah.
have charge, essentially.
Yeah, that
So,
charge is, it's got
He only
40
has one
seconds on
force
it.
field. He does have a time warp, which will help a little bit.
Force
He's able
field
to drop
almost,
that down.
almost kind of helped Aegis there a little bit.
Right. But as soon as charge finishes, this army very scary.
Yeah, definitely.
Hypernia. Essentially, his whole army is designed to kill Aegis's.
Yeah.
Would love to see a time warp here. Aegis stuttering away. Good stems. Hypernia has continued to work in DTs just to keep the energy of those orbital commands low, which has been really cool. The stim's starting to take the toll on the army.
Yeah, for sure. And this Protoss army just keeps chasing down the Terrans, and a lot of those low medevacs are going to start getting picked off
Right.
by these Blink Stalkers that are jumping on forward. So Hypernia coming out of this fight really strongly. He retained all of his classes that he had. He just lost mostly Blink Stalkers, maybe, or not Blink Stalkers,
Mostly
Charge
Zealots. Yep.
which that's totally fine with him. He's happy to just lose Zealots because that's really what they're there for.
Aegis pulling SCVs right at the start at the front of his natural. It'll be interesting to see if Hypernia goes for blood. Yep, takes the safer choice to try to lift or kill the third.
Yep, although he might get kind of sandwiched here actually, and he does not have his mothership core with him. It
Yep,
kind
gets
of
some good
just sitting in
damage
the middle
done,
of the
but
map.
now it'll be really interesting to see if he can retain his valuable units from this fight. Because really, he just wants to walk home at this point with the amount of damage he's done.
Yeah. He's like, Mom.
I mean,
he's
right,
basically-
exactly. I mean, his mother would be proud of the work that he's done so far
Yeah.
in this push.
But right now, he's the kid at soccer
Killed
practice.
26.
That's
He
like,
killed 26 workers and lifted a base. So there's no reason that that he shouldn't push back. But if he feels like he can win right now, he might just try to push in his advantage.
and really, I mean, it's he does have the advantage in army supply, definitely in worker supply now. And there's only four Vikings, maybe adding on a couple more a few at a time, but against 3 Colossus, that just takes so long to even destroy any of those that he's going to clear out pretty much all of the ground forces of Aegis. However, in the meantime, Aegis going for a drop at the 4th base of Hypernia. Definitely going to distract him a bit, and it's going to cancel that base.
Right. Which is cool. Big misstep to leave that mothership core essentially has been in the middle of the map for about 2 or 3 minutes now.
Yeah,
Could have helped
it just
for
kinda-
a time warp or a recall if needed.
Yeah, for sure. And now he's taking this fight at the natural of Aegis while Aegis is dropping onto the 3rd base of Hypernia. But a couple of DTs will defend back home for Hypernia. He loses most of his Colossus. He might lose all of them to the Vikings of Aegis, and Aegis taking this fight actually really brilliantly.
Yeah, those force fields allowed Hypernia to kill that front wall, but since his army's strength was so dependent on the Zealots,
Yep.
it ended up, kind of hurting him in that sense, in that he almost needed to kill the front wave in front of the force field and then pull his Zealots back. Of course, he force fielded there to be able to keep the Marauders from stimming onto his Colossus,
Yeah.
but he just had the Viking count he needed to be able to pick
Yeah,
those
so,
off.
so now, Aegis held that one by pulling most of his SCVs, which retained a lot of his army value. So he could say he definitely won the fight. Will he win the war? Not if Hypernia.
It'll be interesting because
stop this
Hypernia
counterattack.
just needs to live. What's our army supply right now? 50
67
to 67. We have a photon overcharge.
Yeah.
Doesn't go down.
Oh, did the
200 energy mothership core dies.
Yeah.
So if he's able to even at all take these fights cost effectively, or really just to stall.
Yeah. If he just wants to hold on right now. He just needs to buy as much time as he can. He might. Nope. I was
Looks like
expecting.
Hypernia's got this. That Colossus, as long as that Colossus stays alive.
Yeah. Those units are so
Hypernia's
low
on
on
time.
health.
Yep. The 4 medevacs, 5 medevacs? Yeah, 5 medevacs for that low of a supply army.
Yeah.
Kind of funny,
Yeah.
but also very frustrating as any opponent of any race, just because it's so difficult to kill a bio army where every single guy has his own
little personal
supporting medevac.
buddy. Yep.
Aegis deciding to stay aggressive, stay on Hypernia's side of the map,
Yeah.
which I don't blame him for. He needs to keep him off of him, but
He definitely understands that if he lets Hypernia attack him, then he's done for. He's got to keep Hypernia back home, and really his only option there is to go for drops. Hypernia, on the other hand, keeping Aegis back home with some Dark Templar play.
right, continuing to force out scans instead of mules. Not doing a ton of damage with some of these later DTs, but just the fact that a scan is getting used on him.
Yeah, right now Hypernia knows he killed a lot of workers,
Right.
and he knows that mules are really the only way to keep that money count flowing for for Aegis, and so if he can stop mules from being called down by forcing out scans, then he will keep himself in a good position.
Right, and I would actually love to see Hypernia
that's
try
awesome.
to take the other fourth closer to the middle of the map.
Yeah,
just because it's more difficult to drop at. It's more difficult to get, but once the base is established, it's a lot easier to defend than the one with the cliff along the back door.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sorry, I just skipped over the exciting play that just happened.
Hypernia, he had these pylons spread out across the map, and that really helped him out by allowing him to warp in a round of Blink Stalkers to take out those evacuating medevacs, pretty much getting rid of the rest of Aegis's army that was out on the map. Aegis does have a little bit of a force built up back home that he's going to be moving out with, but I don't know that it's going to be enough. This fight that he took without the medevacs kind of split up. Makes him call it GG.
I was gonna say there, with having Aegis, pulling off that cancel on that base, I want to say 2, maybe 3 times, really changed the storyline of that game. Because even though the Hypernia was 60 workers over 20, he only had 1 mining base, and so surprisingly enough, Aegis with 1 mining base, his third. Actually has more income with mules and a fully saturated base than Hypernia does, looking like he's taking a 4th.
Yeah, and there was a period of time where I wanted to double check on the income, and Aegis was kind of keeping up with the at least the mineral income, and really the mineral income is very important for a Terran. So yeah, it was maybe a little bit closer than it looked, but I think a couple of really smart pylon placements by Hypernia across the map helped him out there by being able to pick off and being able to just do aggressive warp-ins while defending and that sort of thing to counterattack. Sam, do you have to go though?
I do. Yep. I have to.
Okay.
I have to leave the little girls. They need a soccer coach.
Okay.
I must go to them. Really fun games. I'm super sad. Nothing should get in the way of StarCraft. Sometimes adult life happens.
Very true.
It is the worst, but really cool game there. I'm interested to see how Aegis responds. I think he'll follow up with a much safer play. The proxy factory put him pretty far behind in economy, and if he had just done a bio-shove, essentially, it would have been a lot scarier than that. So I'd be interested to see if he does a still aggressive, because I think that's the tune that Aegis plays. But it'll be interesting to see how I think we're going to see a much less risky chance sort of play like he did there, when we're going to see a lot more solid aggression.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think Aegis underestimated Hypernia a little bit, and like I was saying, with the players that he thinks, I've got this one in the bag, he just goes for a fun play, something that he can.
Right.
You look back on that and you go, got him, and so.
Right. Yeah, and I mean,
he
he played it out pretty well, even being scouted while halfway in the air.
Yeah, for sure.
But at the end of the day, he didn't get quite the end the game at 9 minutes damage that he was hoping for there. Because all it takes is 1 mine to delay that mining time of your single base, or to kill 8 probes.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the game is over before you even think it's begun.
For sure.
So it'll be interesting to see what he does, though. I'll look forward to the replays.
Okay, sounds good.
Absolutely. Well, best of luck to both players. Take it easy.
Right. Well, thanks for casting with me, Sam. Good luck with the soccer game.
Thank you.
All right. Okie doke. So, I think for right now, it looks like Hypernia is taking a moment. We've got both players in the game. We'll be going into Overgrowth for our second map to see if Hypernia can pull out the 2-0 win, or if Aegis can bring it back with maybe a little bit more safe play, maybe a little less aggressive, a little less cheesy, He's probably going to take Hypernia a little bit more seriously now that he's dropped that first game. So we will have to see. Looks like Aegis is readied up. I should probably get rid of my little... what should I do for that? Yeah, it's fine. Let's do this. Does that help? Nope. Okay, regardless, I'll fix that eventually. Cool. We've got our players readied up in the match. Match number 2 on Overgrowth. It is 1-0 in favor of Hypernia right now. We'll see if he can finish it out. And actually, Hypernia chose Overgrowth. So Aegis chose to ban second so that he could pick King Sejong Station first. So maybe that was his ace in the hole, you know. If he's thinking, I've got this game in the bag. That black screen though. We're coming. Nope. Alright. If Aegis is thinking, I've got this in the bag on King Sejong Station and suddenly drops the map, I mean, what is he thinking right now? What does he go for? It's a little bit hard to see, and we will see if he plays safer or if he goes for that more aggressive play that he was doing before. So, all things said, spawning up in the top right corner of our map, hailing from Minnesota, the green Protoss player, Hypernia. Playing for the team Imperative Gaming X, a team I haven't really heard about before, but I think they recently picked up Hypernia, or he recently joined the team, or started the team, whatever it is. I'll have to ask him about it more later, perhaps. And then, playing down in the bottom left corner of Overgrowth, can't tell if he's going to play aggressive or cheesy yet this game. He needs to win this one just to stay in it and hope to fight for that first place eventually. in this tournament, it is Aegis. He plays for the team Miraculous Gaming, and he hails from Nebraska. I think he's the only Nebraska player actually in the tournament, so he's repping his state, doing it proud, getting at the very least 4th place. This is the 4th place match, so the loser of this match ends up in 4th place. They get $15 for their time and their effort, but then the winner goes on to fight for 3rd, 2nd, or 1st, where the prize pool will be upped pretty significantly, I guess. I don't know. It's not a huge tournament, but it looks like it's at least enough for some very good players from the Midwest region of the U.S. to come out. I don't know why I specified of the U.S., but regardless, let's talk about the game a little bit. So, as it is right now, Hypernia opening up, I think exactly the same as last game. I think he feels very comfortable with that opening. He says, you know, I can beat Terran when I open up with this, and so that's just what I'm gonna go for. And Aegis, he didn't open up with the Reaper. He's looking for some sort of proxy play from Hypernia. He's a little bit scared of getting cheesed out of this game. He wants to play this game. Looks like he really wants to play it straight up. He hasn't gone for his proxy factory shenanigans. He's going for 2 barracks, putting a reactor on one of them. I'd kind of think we'd see a tech lab on this next barracks. Maybe get a quick stim and maybe a quick bio move out to try and punish that natural expansion of Hypernia pretty quickly in the game and to give himself an early advantage. But for right now, both players choosing to stay pretty safe, not really do anything aggressive, and so it'll give both of them time to do basically just what they want to. They don't have to really react to each other's play quite yet, aside from reacting to just understanding that both players are playing the matchup pretty standard. Hypernia going for a Robo after that 1 gate Cyber core, and I would think, well, he's probably not going to do any sort of cheeky blink play just quite yet. Probably going to get that, I guess, an Immortal out. To be honest, I'm terrible at PvT, so me calling plays are probably a bad choice. I play Zerg, and so definitely Terran and Protoss is not my main matchup, but I can give it a shot. Aegis, he's looking out for the possibility of an Oracle fly by to pick off SCVs. Hypernia hasn't chosen to go for that proxy Stargate, but as it is right now, Aegis just doesn't really know that. He hasn't seen this robotics facility come down. Robotics Bay. I always mess that up. No, robotics facility. Where Hypernia is just bumping out observers. Hypernia wants to know what his opponent's doing so he can choose to bring his build in whatever way it needs to go. And as we see, I mean, to some extent similar to last game, Aegis is really concerned about some sort of Oracle run by. Actually, he's got 2 Widow Mines in the mineral line, and he's got a bunch of Marines just sitting there too. So that leaves him with not a whole lot of vision, which could turn out hurting him in the end of this all. Especially because, I mean, he knows that Hypernia got this expansion down, and he should know that, you know, in order to stay economically in the race with Hypernia, he needs to make sure he gets his expansion down as well, which he has started to do. Now, the first aggressive or potentially aggressive move of the match so far will be Aegis moving out with this medevac with 4 Widow Mines in it. Now, Hypernia, he's gotten 4 observers. He's kind of pulling a pig baby here with just getting all sorts of observers, 1 in the Terran main base, 1 at his front, 1 looking for drops to his main, and where's the other one? Not too sure. Hopefully it's near enough though. He should, okay, here's his 4th one. He's got to run these probes away. Will he lose? Ooh, he loses 4 probes to the Widow Mine, the first Widow Mine drop. And I think the second Widow Mine drop he will lose just 1 more. So he's lost 5 total. He's still at 39 probes to 30 SCVs. And he should be able to, with the amount of observers that he has on the map, he should be able to clean up these Widow Mines very, very easily. It looks like down at the natural, unfortunately, he's going to lose another few. Ooh, he loses 3 probes to that Widow Mine. He wasn't quite sure. Maybe he didn't quite have that internal clock in his head of how long it takes for Widow Mine to cool down. So he wasn't quite ready. Some people are amazingly good at pulling away and knowing exactly how long it takes for Widow Mines to shoot, and Aegis he's loving the Widow Mines in all of these games, really. He takes out 2 more probes with 2 Widow Mine shots, so you might not consider that the most effective use of at least those 2. I think the first couple of Widow Mines, they did a very good job, but he ended up losing 6 Widow Mines for 11 workers. In the grand scheme of things, probably not worth it, but you know, maybe this. Oh, that's painful. Okay, so I just mentioned that maybe it wasn't worth it. However, now that's definitely worth it. That Widow Mine totally paid for itself. He's nearly evened up the worker supply, and now he's got a bit of. He thought about doing a bit of a bio push up against Hypernia's natural base, and with that stim, he's able to really scare those stalkers away. This Colossus coming out will keep him safe from that, though, along with that photon overcharge. So Aegis, being completely relentless in his drop play with these Widow Mines, being very, very aggressive, moving the Widow Mines to get into a better position to try and get those probes down. He only gets 1 out of those, 1 probe kill with those 2 Widow Mines, and then loses the medevac. So now, I have a feeling Aegis will probably be done with that. I think he's realized that, okay, he spent a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of attention to stopping these Widow Mine drops, and I would assume that Aegis would be slowing down on the Widow Mine aggression. I think he's probably pretty happy, honestly, with what he's gotten killed with those so far. Although it did take quite a number of them, and he has lost, at least he's lost 1 medevac from it all. If you take a quick look, yeah, he's lost 2 medevacs, okay. So, Hibernia getting that photon cannon down in the natural, as well as the one he already had in his main, and actually getting another one. He's making sure to play extremely safe against Aegis. He doesn't want to lose to something kind of ridiculous, like a extremely terrible Widowmine shot. I mean, Aegis has had 1 or 2 good ones so far, but the potential hasn't quite been seen for those Widowmines, so they could turn into something extremely bad for Hibernia. We got another Widowmine drop. It looks like it is repelled by that photon cannon, though. Aegis, I believe that should be a block on whenever Hibernia tries to take his third base, which should probably be pretty soon, unless Hibernia goes for some sort of 2-base all-in push, which I don't know if he feels very comfortable doing that against a Terran of Aegis' caliber, especially in such a pretty important game such as this one. You don't really want to throw away based off of, not a lot of information. I mean, Hibernia, he knows that Aegis has a second base, but he doesn't have a huge breadth of information on what Aegis is doing so far. He doesn't know that this third base is going to be going down. And so I think to push out and do some sort of all-in would probably be a little silly. He does take that third base. All the while a probe looks like he's going down to place a proxy pylon to put a little bit of aggression onto this third base of Aegis that's coming down. He's trying to secure this. Hibernia is trying to secure the third of his own. He sees this bio run by and chooses to go ahead and just cancel. He knows there's no way he can hold that Exus. And I don't know. I'm not sure how this is really going to end up for both of these players. Aegis is in a very good spot with holding off and stopping that expansion from Hibernia, and pretty smartly laying down a Widowmine there again, just to make sure that he's not able to expand quite as quickly. Hibernia doesn't lose any units to that shot though. Very nice blink away from it. So during all of this, whereas Aegis was behind in the worker count for a while, through that aggressive Widowmine drop play and his very vigilant SCV creation, he's actually pulled ahead in the worker supply by 10. So what was a game that was in Hibernia's economic favor has fallen back a little bit into Aegis's favor. This run by of Zealots getting picked off at Aegis' third. Hibernia is just trying to get something done. He's trying to get Aegis' attention drawn elsewhere. If Aegis tries to attack Hibernia's army up here and a couple of Zealots run by and manage to take out a bunch of SCVs at the third base, and that's great for Hibernia. But this fight is going down. We've got 4 Colossus going up against 6 Vikings or so. The Colossus are okay. The Colossus are kind of running kind of haphazardly and running through a lot of Viking shots, and Hibernia, I think, rightfully and correctly chooses to just go ahead and recall back home. The fight was really just not going his way, and the best thing to do there was just to power of Protoss your way back home and use that recall to its full ability. That has allowed Hibernia to get his third base secured, and, well, not quite secured. There's not a lot around here to defend, but it has finished, and he has probes there, and he does have an army that should be able to defend it. Especially with his other bases being quite well defended against drops, I think Hibernia can focus a lot of his attention on just securing this third base. So if we look over at the upgrades as well, Hibernia just finishing up his third armor upgrade. You want to get that armor upgrade, especially against Terran, because, well, just because really it ends up being more effective against things like Marines who attack very quickly but have a low damage. And so if you have 3 armor against only 7 damage, then suddenly you're only taking 4 damage every shot, and so it greatly reduces the DPS of those quick attacking units out of the Terran. And on Aegis's side, he's got +1 in vehicle weapons, and +1 in infantry weapon and armor. So maybe a little bit behind in the upgrade race. However, he is double upgrading now out of his engineering base. So he should be catching up pretty quick there. He's getting Cloak for some ghosts, going to be very useful against dealing with this, taking off the shields of Hypernia's army, and especially now that he's seen High Templar come out of Hypernia, holy shit. Alright, so I missed a huge Zealot run by. I apologize. Hypernia bringing it back a little bit into this game, killing off 10 SCVs, which brings him actually now back into the worker lead. And now that there are, well, Aegis is starting to get into his third base, and we're seeing that it's definitely helping out in his income. However, he's getting a gold for his fourth, so it's definitely helping out his income. However, Hypernia is going to pressure it a bit with some Zealots and a Dark Templar. They do get pushed off, but he wastes a scan. He wastes two scans now from Aegis, which is very big, and he kills off 8 workers, so very good target firing onto those SCVs. Oh, it wasn't even at the 4th base, it was down at the 3rd. Hypernia, you are all over the map with these Dark Templars. And he's got 2 more into the 4th base of Aegis. It just instinctively, kind of muscle memory, puts a scan down on the place where he already has that turret, and he can't even kill off those Dark Templars with that scan. So now I think he's burned like 6-7 scans onto DTs, and that he no longer can get that mule money from those. So suddenly Hypernia, through some very tricky and very I guess I'll just say diligent use of the forward pylons. A lot of times Protoss will lose these pylons that are near their opponent's bases, and suddenly they're stuck back at home and they can't harass their opponent at all. But as it is, Hypernia sends a Dark Templar to the 4th base, sends another one down to, it looks like, the natural or the main base. Are there any more around the map that I've missed? No, there are only 2. Okay, so he's got the one in the natural. He's killing off another number of SCVs. We've got 29 SCVs, 30 SCVs killed in this combo so far. Hypernia, you are just going ham on these SCVs, man. Like, and Aegis, he's almost starting to crumble a little bit. You see him, he's pulling out. He's got workers just running all over the place. He's got his army a little bit segmented out. His Vikings are not attacking these Colossus, and all the while his army's just kind of running around. He takes a pretty good position with this fight, using some of the terrain there, giving a decent amount of time for his Vikings, which actually have been shredded by all of these storms. So Hypernia retains 2 Colossus. He's got Charged Zealots coming in from the east side. He's got Stalkers acting as a buffer for the Colossus shots, and a couple of Archons morphing in the back that will help with any, if he tries to pull the SCVs against those Archons, then suddenly Aegis goes from 41 SCVs to roughly 0 because you cannot pull SCVs against Archons. And now we've got almost all of the bases of Aegis lifted off. He's trying to just scramble around and save himself in this fight. However, Hypernia being just so aggressive and so all of these multi-pronged attacks that, I mean, I certainly can't keep up with him. I don't see how Aegis can when he's trying to do everything else in this game as well. There's that one Dark Templar that is really forcing out so much micro from Aegis that his attention is just anywhere else, and in the back of this, Hypernia gets to do whatever he wants. Now that he's got the aggressive stance on his opponent, he can expand, he can, macro up with some additional production structures. He can really do just about anything he wants at this point in this game, because he's got more army in Aegis's base than Aegis has total army, as far as I can see. And so it looks like, unless Aegis is able to somehow have a miraculous hold against this, Hypernia is going to be taking Aegis out, putting him into 4th place, and Hypernia, who finished 4th last Midwest Cup, looks like he's going to at least secure himself a 3rd place finish with this fight. It's gonna probably go on for a while, but you can't kill this many charge points. Okay, Aegis, he finally realizes he can't take that fight, and Hypernia, knocks Aegis out, who, based on numbers, based on league, based on, you know, a couple of other previous results in other tournaments, you would say Aegis was the favored player there. But Hypernia, damn son, like, he just there was a little bit during that game when I thought maybe he couldn't do it, you know, but he went ahead and he said, I'm going to be everywhere at the same time. I am going to Warp Dark Templars all over your base. You're going to have to go back home and either choose to defend back home, choose to defend all of your bases at the same time, and in that time you're not going to be able to attack me, so Hypernia gets to stay comfortable. He just went ham that game. That is so impressive. So very well played by Hypernia. Thank you very much for Aegis for playing. He finishes in 4th place.